In 2023, I obtained a global talent visa and moved to the UK, and it has completely changed my life. In this video, I'm going to share everything I know about global talent. I'm going to break down the process and give you the visa overview, guide you through all the nuances and pitfalls of different stages, show you examples of the documents I used for my application, unveil the total cost of the visa, and give you my further tips and recommendation. This video is going to be packed with valuable information, so make sure to get your pen and paper ready and stick until the end. Let's go! Hey, my name is Daniel Sokolovsky, and I help creators and aspiring professionals to build their side hustles by sharing my experiences, productivity systems, and personal development insights. Now, a quick disclaimer. I'm not an immigration consultant and I only share my personal experience. And while the process that I'm going to share resulted me in getting the visa, your case might be different, and of course rules change as well. So please make sure to read the latest requirements of the visa and not just rely on the information in this video, even though I'll do my best to make it as accurate as possible. With that now out of the way, let's get started with the visa overview. So the Global Talent Visa is designed for people of science, art, culture, and digital technology. The visa grants permission to live and work in the UK with almost no restrictions, with the option to extend the duration of the visa if needed and then apply for indefinite leave to remain and then finally citizenship. It also permits bringing along your partners and children. And just to give you a heads up, the total cost of this visa is approximately £4,000 for the main applicant and almost £6,000 for the dependents for the whole 5-year duration of the visa. Keep in mind the prices are increasing almost every year, so by the time you're watching this, the actual cost might be even higher. And of course, I'll break down the cost later in this video and also explain why the total cost of the dependents might be higher than that for the main applicant. For me, the whole process of discovering this visa, making all the documents ready, submitting the application, waiting for the decision, and actually finally getting the visa took me 5 months. Of course, it could be faster depending on the case, but I would say maybe 2 or 3 months is probably the bare minimum. I also want to quickly touch on the difference between global talent and a work visa. When considering a work permit in another country, the typical option that comes in mind is a work visa. In the UK, it's called the skilled worker visa. In theory, obtaining a skilled worker visa is easy because most of the bureaucracy rests on the employee. You can apply for a job from abroad, undergo an interview, and secure an invitation to work along with your relocation to the UK. However, there are nuances. Not every company or profession qualifies for the visa. The government website maintains a register of approved companies and a list of professions. If yours isn't listed, you're out of luck. Even if a company is on the approved register, they might not be interested in bringing a worker from abroad because of the associated costs of visa and relocation. Another potential downside of the skilled worker visa is that it ties you to an employee. If your company struggles and you're laid off, you'd have to leave the country and start all over again. Overall, the skilled worker visa provides limited or no social security, which is a major drawback for me as a family person. Lastly, for the skilled worker visa, you must complete an English language test, show a minimum amount of money in your bank account, provide a criminal records certificate, and some other documents. In contrast, the global talent visa requires you to show your talent, but that's pretty much it. You can work for any company or choose not to work at all, you can switch jobs without any constraints, you can freelance or establish your own business, all without the requirements to demonstrate proficiency in English or meet specific income criteria. As far as I know, the Global Talent Visa has only 2 restrictions. You cannot work as a doctor or a professional sportsman, and you cannot claim public funds such as benefits or pensions. Apart from those limitations, you have the freedom to live and work as you prefer on this visa. Now let's get into the preparation mindset and the visa categories. When you read the description and the requirements of the visa, you'll come across terms like exceptional talent and acknowledged leader. There is also a casual mention of Grammy, like, if you have that award, please click here, which may seem a bit daunting. I remember thinking, wow, that's a bit too much, I'm probably not as talented as the visa requires. However, now looking back, I can reassure you, you don't have to be a global star. Any level of success in your field might be just enough. From my experience, this visa really isn't about talent, but about your determination and the ability to meet the criteria. Now, the Global Talent Visa comes in 2 categories. Exceptional promise, for those who show promise, and exceptional talent, for recognized leaders as they call it. The key difference between these categories is that achieving indefinite leave to remain takes at least 5 years under exceptional promise, while exceptional talent requires only 3 years. In other words, exceptional talent is a shorter route to indefinite leave to remain, which is clearly better. It is completely up to you in which category you want to apply, and in case you're curious, I've got my visa as the exceptional talent. Now, globally speaking, the whole visa process consists of 2 parts, called Stage 1 and Stage 2, and let me quickly give you an overview of those. During stage 1, you need to get approval from a cultural institution. This step, known as endorsement, is the crucial part of the whole process. Once you get your endorsement, you can then proceed to stage 2, which involves applying at the visa application center. If it's your first time obtaining the visa rather than renewing an existing one, you must apply outside the UK. With that general process now being mapped, let's get into the nitty-gritty. Now, for the stage 1 application, the exact list of documents depends on your field of work. As I mentioned earlier, the goal at this stage is to get an endorsement from a cultural organization, which is different for every field, and so is their requirements. Here are the available options. Academia or research, which includes science, medicine, engineering, humanities and social science. Arts and culture, which includes combined arts, dance, literature, music, theater and visual arts. Architecture, fashion design, film and television, including animation, post-production and visual effects. And last but not least, digital technology, which includes financial technology, gaming, cybersecurity and artificial intelligence. Personally, I applied under the following route: arts and culture, combined arts, dance, literature, music, theater or visual arts, then music, then described my specialization in my own words as a performing DJ, music producer, curator and events promoter. The endorsing body for my field is called Arts Council England. It's important to know that all my experiences fall specifically to this organization, so if you're applying in another field, make sure to research their requirements. If you're also applying under Arts Council England and you're kind of unsure whether your specific profession is eligible for the visa, you can check their official guide which lists all supported disciplines. For example, I knew that my discipline was eligible because it's listed here as DJs, producers that create original music or remixes, as well as individuals who contribute to the creation and delivery of music work in the above areas, such as producers or engineers for recorded work, curators of live music events who are involved directly with selection of artists, or technical crew for live events, which all were my roles at the time. I hope you can find your profession on the list, and they also include ineligible disciplines, which might also be good to know. I highly recommend reading this guide multiple times because the information there is extremely useful, and of course I'll put a link in the description. Now, in order to apply for endorsement, you need to submit up to 14 documents, 3 recommendation letters, up to 10 pieces of evidence showing your talent, and a copy of your CV, which is a new requirement that has been added recently. Let's break it down, starting with the recommendation letters. The first letter must be from a UK-based culture organization which is well-established nationally or internationally and recognized as having expertise in your area. The second letter must be from another cultural organization which is also well-established nationally or internationally, though the second organization doesn't have to be UK-based, it could be from any country. The third letter can be either from a third organization or a person with a recognized expertise in your area, and that again can be based anywhere. Each letter should say how the person knows you, show your achievements, and most importantly, describe how you would enrich the cultural life in the UK. I mean, it's pretty easy to imagine how you would benefit from living in the UK, right? I mean, it's a lovely country, but how would the UK benefit from you being here? That is the main question the recommendation letter should answer. If you are wondering what such letter could look like, I can show you mine, which was simple one-page PDF files. Obviously, for this demonstration, I hid all personal details, but basically it was just a couple of paragraphs of text and nothing fancy. The next type of document you need is supporting evidence of your professional activities across at least 2 or 3 categories: media recognition, international awards, and proof of appearances. As you remember, you need up to 10 of those pieces of evidence, and within those 10 pieces you can mix and match categories as you like. For example, it could be 4 media, 2 awards and 4 appearances, or it could be 3 media, 1 award and 6 appearances, which was exactly what I did. The only minimum requirement when it comes to the number of those pieces per category is to provide at least 2 pieces of media recognition. Here comes a bit tricky part. They say you need to provide up to 10 pieces of evidence and in at least 2 categories. But based on my experience and the experience of my fellows, I would highly suggest providing exactly all 10 pieces in the exact 3 categories, at least if you're aiming for the exceptional talent route. And a few more things to keep in mind depending on whether you're going for the exceptional promise or exceptional talent. For talent, all evidence must be within the last 5 years of the application date. Media recognition and proof of appearances must be from at least 2 countries. Evidence from blogs or social media is not acceptable, and you must provide evidence of winning an award. For promise, all evidence must also be within the last 5 years. However, media recognition and proof of appearances could be international or national. Evidence from social media is not acceptable, which means blogs might work. And for the award, you must provide evidence of winning or being nominated. There is no specific guidelines how this document should look like, which means you can present them in any way you want. There are only 3 requirements though. Each document must be no more than 2 pages. If you wish to use the content of a web page, such as a review, event listing, video or a radio show podcast you appeared on, as evidence, you must provide a full printed copy or screenshot of the page and the full link URL for the page, which you can do by pressing the print command in your browser and saving the file as a PDF. If any pieces of evidence are in another language, they must include a full translation to English from a certified translator. And to make this video even more useful for you, I can show you examples of my documents, which I hope you can appreciate by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. The first piece is a media recognition, which is an article on the UK community website called Harder Faster, and it highlights the decade of music with me, and Daniel Lesden is my stage name. As you can see, it's just a web page saved as a PDF, but importantly it has a timestamp and a link to the original page, which were added automatically by using the print command in the browser I showed earlier. Also note that it shows page 1 of 8, which means the full article is actually 8 pages long, but I had to cut the remaining pages off because the document must be no more than 2 pages. Another piece I can show you is my proof of appearance, which was an event I played as a DJ. As you can see, it's again just a simple 2-page document. On the first page, I provided a brief description of what this gig was about and added a few pictures from that event. On the second page, I saved the content of the website called Resident Advisor to show the event announcement and the official description from the event promoter. Now, you may ask, but what if I don't have those recommendations or an award or press mention? And well, this is definitely the most challenging part of the whole visa process, and it's up to you to figure out how to get those. For me, it took me about a month to figure out the requirements and get all the necessary document, although you can imagine this timeline would be different for everyone. Once you have all 14 documents ready, you can then apply for endorsement, which will require you to submit a pretty comprehensive and long application form, pay the initial portion of the visa fee, and then wait. In my case, I got the decision back after 3 weeks, which stated that I had met the criteria for exceptional talent and therefore can be endorsed under global talent. Receiving that email was quite an emotional moment. Now we're finally at stage 2, which is much easier and pretty much the final line. Basically, all you have to do is to submit another long application form, pay the fees, find the visa application center in your location, bring there your passport, and then wait for the final decision. But there are a few things you need to know. First, you must apply from outside the UK. If up until that point you've been in the UK as a tourist, maybe doing your networking to help with the recommendation and stuff, now you'll have to leave the country. Secondly, the endorsement is valid for 3 months. If you don't proceed with the second stage within this time frame, the endorsement will expire and you'll have to start all over again. So you should really plan this stage ahead of time. And lastly, once you bring your passport to the visa application center, they are going to take it, which means you'll spend potentially 2 months without your travel document. Some visa centers have a paid option to allow you to keep your passport, but this option is available only in certain visa centers depending on the location. Just keep that in mind if you are a frequent traveler. In my case, I received my passport back after 9 weeks and then was finally ready to move to the UK. Now let's get to the scary part of the visa and see how much it costs. The visa fee is £760, with 524 paid when you apply for endorsement and 192 when you apply for the visa itself. The healthcare fee is £1,035 per year. That gives us the following number. For exceptional talent, you need to pay 716 plus 1,035 multiplied by 3 years, which is £3,821. For exceptional promise, you need to pay 716 plus 1,035 multiplied by 5 years, which is £5,891. Keep in mind that you can pay yearly if you don't have the full amount at once, however, paying for the full duration of the visa upfront is much cheaper. To give you an example, for the whole duration of the exceptional talent route, you would need to pay £3,821 as we already established. But if you pay yearly instead, you will have to pay 716 plus 1,035 for the first year, then another 716 plus 1,035 for the second year, and then again 716 plus 1,035 for the third year, which is of course becomes much more expensive as the total amount would be 5,253. And that's of course not taking the price increase into account, and they do increase fees almost every year. so I would strongly recommend paying the full amount upfront whenever possible. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning, Global Talent allows you to bring dependents, your partner and children, and there are a few things to keep in mind as well. Your dependents don't need to apply for endorsement, which thankfully makes sense. They can apply for the visa, which is a stage 2 application, at the same time as you do, and I think this isn't very obvious. In my case, we waited until I received my visa before my wife and child applied, which resulted in additional 2-month wait. So I hope you learn from this mistake. Your dependents, however, still have to pay the full visa fee plus the NHS fee. So as you can imagine, obtaining visa for the whole family may double, triple or even quadruple your total visa cost depending on how many family members are moving with you. And there is one more caveat. If your Global Talent is an exceptional talent category, you can apply for indefinite leave to remain after 3 years of living in the UK. However, even if you have exceptional talent, your dependents can apply for indefinite leave to remain only after 5 years. So by the time you'll be applying for indefinite leave to remain, if you choose to do so, your dependents will have to extend their visa for additional 2 years first. To me, this rule doesn't make sense. I hope it will change someday, but it is what it is for now, and at least I want you to be aware of that. And that wraps up my experience with Global Talent. I didn't expect my first video on the channel to be that long and complex, but I hope you can appreciate my efforts in putting all of this together. If you find this video useful, please give it a like, share, and even consider supporting me on Patreon. That would be lovely. And well, bye for now, and I'll see you next time.